My name is Debbie, Owl and Gator Stitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 14. Today is Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. Welcome back to all of my returning viewers. Thank you for all of your comments. I really appreciate them, that you've taken the time not just to watch, but to leave me some encouragement as well. Also, thank you to anyone who is new here for stopping on by. I hope that you will like what you see. This is a video mainly about cross stitch, a little bit about what I'm reading and watching as well. When I filmed a little over 2 weeks ago, I mentioned that Tropical Storm Elsa was heading our way. Indeed, the storm didn't quite go right overhead of us. We were a little bit to the south when the storm came through, but nonetheless, we did have quite a bit of rain. It felt like about 24 hours of just rain coming down, sometimes heavy, sometimes not so heavy, but just a lot of bad weather. We did totally fine. We didn't even lose electricity. Unfortunately, there were some others in our county who were not so lucky, and there were quite a few roads that were closed because of flooding. The neighborhood next to mine had their only road that goes in and out was flooded for about a week, and 2 houses on either side of the road actually were flooded as well, and so they had sustained some major damage. So my heart goes out to people who are still trying to deal with the property loss. Fortunately, no one was injured or died during the storm. And my heart also goes out to everyone in Germany and Belgium and elsewhere that has suffered flooding over the past 2 weeks. Obviously, we knew the storm was coming. We could prepare. But in Europe, just the heavy rains, they weren't prepared for the damage that it could cause. So my heart goes out to you and to people who might have lost loved ones or suffered property damage. Before I get in and show you my stitching, I just want to mention the Under 1,000 Subs Club. This is for Flosstubers who have fewer than 1,000 subscribers. It's just a chance for us to shout out some of those videos and help hopefully boost their viewership. So the person I want to talk about today is Heather. Link is my homeboy. She is the first place that I heard about the Under 1,000 Subs Club. I don't know if it was her idea, but it was certainly something that she spoke with another Flosstuber about how can they sort of help other Flosstubers increase their membership. So Heather does a lot of stitching related to Halloween. She has other pieces as well, but I always think of Halloween with her. She has a lot of great pieces that she does related to that. She doesn't film on a regular basis as far as I can tell, but when she has content and time, she does film her video. So go give Heather a look-see and see if it's something that you're interested in. Also, before I start showing my current stitching, I want to show you some of my older stitching. My parents are out of town this week and I'm on cat feeding duty, so I go over there every morning and feed and play with their cat for a while. And I wanted to have an opportunity to show you some of the older pieces that my parents have that I have given to them and to my grandparents, which they now have. So I'm going to insert that video here. These are 3 cross stitch pieces that I have at my parents' house. The one on top is one I gave to my parents probably sometime in the early 1990s. The one below that, which you can tell has glass, so sorry for the reflection. This is one called Foxes. You can see, if I get a little bit closer, you can see I did it in 1989, so that's good dating on when I did that. I was a college student, so obviously I just used the cheapest glass that I could get. And then the last one, here we go. This is called Skunks. It's actually from the same booklet as Foxes. I don't know the year, but it probably is sometime in the 1980s. So these are pieces that are now all at my parents' place. Both sets of my grandparents have now passed away, but I'm glad that my mother did save the stitches. And this is Lucy, my parents' cat. That I'm helping to take care of. She's a little bit sad because she misses my parents, but she is so cute. So I hope you enjoyed that little video of those 3 pieces. Again, those were all done in the late 80s or in the 90s. I actually still have the booklets that I used for those, so I wanted to show them. The first one is this one, Reflections. I believe it's from 1995. And that's the piece that I showed that I gave to my parents at some point. But there's a lot of great patterns. It looks like there are 10, but there are actually some repeats. There's the one again that I gave to my parents. But I love these booklets from the 80s and 90s because, when you bought them, there were tons of patterns for you to do in there. they might be a little bit smaller, but nonetheless, this one was full coverage, and so it did take some time, and I had a lot of fun doing that one. And then the one that each of the cross stitch pieces that I gave to my grandparents, which now my parents have, came from this booklet called Forest Babies. This is actually, I think, from 1983, so quite vintage. But I do feel in a lot of cases that the pieces are sort of timeless. So I have not stitched these three on the front, but I think that they're really cute. Here are the ones that I did stitch in the back: the foxes and the skunks. So I've saved both of these booklets because I do like additional patterns in the booklets, and I hope one day that I'll get around and have time to stitch some more of these, because now that I have more stitching time, I hope that I can get around to some of these older projects that I thought when I bought the patterns or the books would be great to do, and maybe now I'll have time to actually start working on all of them. So now let's move on to my current stitching. When I left you last, I was finishing up the Riff Off, which is a game in No New Starts. Basically, you have to do 200 stitches in one of your active projects and then connect it somehow to another project. And you could do as many connections as you wanted, but you could not repeat one of your projects unless you had gone all the way through. But you also could not repeat the connection. So if there's a cat in this one, you could connect to with a cat, but then you couldn't use cat again. So I also am playing other games. I'm still doing bingo. I'll show you my bingo boards in a minute, but I'll reference that as well. So the first piece for the Riff Off that I worked on, or the continuation, was Heaven and Earth Designs. This is Midnight Vigil, artwork by Lisa Parker. This is the mini. Last time I did not have the cover photo, so I'm glad I found it. Somehow it was stuck into a different project. This is one I've also done a lot of stitches in for bingo through semi-sane stitchers, and also it is my focus piece for the next 2 weeks for Crystal Academy, in which we have to get 750 stitches into the piece that we selected already in order to master the spell. I only have about 100 stitches or so to go in this project, until I master it through Crystal Academy. But what I've done here is, so I just basically have been working on the night sky here. So that's a lot of 3799. A little bit of 310 thrown in, but just a lot of dark colors here. And then there's sort of some patchiness here because as a number got called for bingo, if it was semi-sane bingo, you had to put in 200 stitches, at least 100 in the color that was called, or if it's sane, you have to just put 50 stitches in the color that was called. This one's got a lot of good progress, and I was very excited because last night number 791 was called. All these little holes in here, all these little rogue stitches here are just waiting for 791, so it will be nice to sort of finish off this chunk of color here. So that is Midnight Vigil from Hayes. The next piece that I worked on, I connected, was to White Owl. This is a piece that was charted by Artecy, artwork by Kayomi Harai. So I connected this because you saw there was a moon in the picture. So here's what it is now. And I also periodically would get numbers from the semi-sane stitchers bingo that would come in here. So a little bit in the moon, and I think this is 939 was called recently, so I did that. And then up here, I can't remember exactly if that was like 820 or 823. So I sort of have just been dancing along to sort of pull the colors in as necessary. This color, I don't remember what number it is, but I'm waiting for this number to be called as well because I'm just dying to get these little blue stitches done as well. I also am using this for letters of the month. We are this month on M and N. So Midnight Vigil, the previous piece that I showed, was one of the pieces, and the other one is this one. I said N for the night sky. So that's where this one is, and again, a piece that I really do love. I kind of feel like this looks like the Death Star right now, so part of me wants to get moon filled in a little bit more, so it looks more like a peaceful picture as opposed to a Star Wars picture. The next connection I had from that, I moved on to Jane Bannister, which is the Hands Across the Sea. So sorry for the glare there. And what I said, the connection was a bird, because obviously an owl is a bird, and there's a little bird here. So I picked up and just put in 200 stitches. I think I put it all in this peach color, basically, just to start filling in a little bit more. I then moved on to the last piece that I did for the riff off, which is also my focus piece for the year, and that is, of course, Hade's Cats in the Toy Box, the artwork by Lesley Anne Ivory. So I've got some great progress on this, probably a couple thousand stitches since I showed it last time. I've started to really get a lot of the stitches filled in on this half of the koala and sort of coming down to his chest area. Also pulled in a lot of this blue here and a few other smaller colors on the side border. And I do love this kitty here. It's now, last time I said it was sort of like a shimmer of a kitty, and now I can see more of the outline of the kitty. Obviously the tail is coming along nicely. This is, I think, sort of coming in the toy clown that's down there, but to me right now it looks like a blob of color. But that's okay, it will get filled in. I was also very excited last night because there are some of the colors, especially up here, which I was using for bingo, and they just weren't getting called. And so finally last night, 644 was called, and there were like 2 or 3 stitches in this very top row, and then it's a lot of the koala. So I started it last night. I didn't get a chance to finish it, but this is a piece I work on almost every day, my evening piece, and it's also my extra credit for Crystal Academy, and it's also my focus piece for semi-sane stitchers, and I also use it to build cabins in Magical Stitches. So just all the way around, lots of excuses to give this piece some love. So that's all I had for the riff off. I paused because someone wanted to say hello. This is Maya. Maya is not so much a lap cat, not because she doesn't like being around people, but she fully likes her independence, and being on a lap doesn't help that. So she's not so happy to be here. She's my little girl, my little tortoiseshell cat. So anyhow, that's Maya. So moving on back to the stitching and off the cats. Other pieces that I worked on over the past couple of weeks. So this is Evening Romance by Artecy. I wanted to work on this because in No New Starts, they have they do a sort of stitch along for the zodiac signs. That's what it is. I'm not looking into astrology, so I always forget what it's called. But whatever the sign was that just finished up, it was a water sign, so I picked this up to work to get some of the water done. Also through semi-sane stitches, I put this up for Choose My Whip, and this one was chosen over another one. So got a little bit of progress on this. Again, this one is not on Pattern Keeper, so it just takes me a little bit more time to do, and it's very confetti heavy. I only have this as a hard copy, as a paper copy. So I put a lot of stitches in down here and also started going up here. I'm getting very close to a page finish on this, but as you can see, if I get closer, there are quite a few rogue stitches in there, and those I always feel take a lot more time than I think they should, just to fill in. But I'm hoping if I keep saying I'm hoping if I get some time, I'll go back and get the page finished. At some point I'll get it finished. I'm not entirely sure when. The next piece that I worked on was Let Freedom Ring by Lila's Studio. I showed this last time as well. So this was for the previous week, the piece that I used for Crystal Academy to learn the spell. And it's also one of my Whip Go pieces. So what I did here, I just sort of came down and started working on this flower here. I can't remember if I had the bird done last time, but then just sort of extending across this way and down this way, did a little bit of the border up here. I got a little bit frustrated because I'm getting very close to page 1 finish on this, although I've already gone on to page 6 and page 2 as well. But then I realized, so here is As you can see, it's the sort of the border around the words there. And I I've had this kitted up for almost a year, and I realized I didn't have that color for the stitches that will go in here. I need to take a good look at the pattern. Again, because of what it is, I can easily substitute in another color if it's just the stitches around that. If for some reason it is the color that, say, appears in horses or somewhere else where it is vital to getting the right shading, I will make sure I get the right color that's called for, or at least something that's very close to it, so I can make sure that it doesn't mess up the rest of the pattern with a sort of a funky color that I've chosen. But I'm loving this. It's a lot of fun to stitch. It's a little bit slow for me because this is a linen, which is, I don't find it necessarily hard to stitch on linen, but I do just have to be more careful to make sure that my needle is going up in the correct hole. The next piece that I worked on was Love One Another. This piece here originally started for the monthly magazine challenge. I had some sort of great idea that if the acrostic for July, the theme was I think Jolly July or Christmas in July, and the acrostic word was jolly. I thought I can push myself and make this, I think I had L for love one another, and then O and jolly for do the word, finish one of the words and all of that. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I did pull out every now and then because I did use a lot of the colors on this for bingo. So a lot of these have sort of random colors, have 50 to 60 stitches in there. So like this pink color came out. I'm sure I did a little bit of the light green as well as the dark green. And this blue up here got a little bit hard because I knew I was playing fabric chicken here, but just trying to get the Q snap on this has been difficult. And this is a very stiff aida. So as a result, I did not, I don't really like to put this one in the Q snap because, in the hoop, because I think it's too stiff. So I put it in the Q snap. So anyhow, that's where I am now. I am not going to anywhere get a finish on this month, but I'm getting a little bit closer. So that is Love One Another. And another one that I worked on a little bit was, this is Heaven and Earth Designs, Little Cake Shop. It is Max Color, artwork by Aimee Stewart. And this one, I didn't get a huge amount of stitches, but periodically it would come up in one of the bingos. So I know this number was most recently called here. I did a little bit in the ceiling and on the molding on the ceiling, probably a little bit in the window as well. Sorry, that's a poster. But just slowly coming along. And again, this one, when I look at it, I know it's pink, but for some reason, the way that I've just done it so far, it looks like blood dripping down a wall. So I do really at some point want to make sure I go in and fill these colors so it looks like a bright sunny picture and not some Halloween horror movie. This is by far my largest piece. It has about 350,000 stitches, but this is 22 count hardanger. I'm doing 1/1, and so it actually stitches up relatively quickly. This is maybe 2 or 3%. I mean, this is not a huge amount done whatsoever. So this is going to be a piece that is in my collection for a long time. But whenever I do pick it up, I'm always amazed how quickly I can work on this one. And the last piece that I have to show you, sorry, not the last piece, the penultimate piece. This is High Intensity by Artecy, artwork by Agnew. This is a picture of a jaguar in the forest, and this is the cropped version. There's another version where there's a lot more background to it. And this I am trying to use for bingo for full coverage fanatics, which I may try and make a final push in getting one row with 1,000 stitches each, but so far White Owl is the only one so far that I've managed to get 1,000 stitches in. But I did put this up against for semi-sane stitchers, this or that, and it won. So I'm working hard to get some more stitches in. So I've been sort of pulling some of the stitches here and sort of across here. It's a jaguar, so he's very spotted, but having a lot of fun work on this. This was especially one that's good to do whenever my eyes are tired, because it is a 14 count aida, and so just when I'm sort of tired, it's good just to have really easy holes to see, and I don't have to think. I shouldn't say think. I don't have to. The concentration isn't required that it is for some of the smaller counts. And now the very last piece I have to show you. This is Christmas wreath with this little kitty hanging on a wreath. For anyone who have cats, you know, this is not beyond the realm of possibilities because cats are little acrobats. This is my focus piece for the magazine monthly cross stitch challenge group. To get 500 stitches. I probably have gotten that many stitches in now, but I also am using a lot of the colors for bingo. So that's why it's just so random. So I know I had this little patch done here, but then this color, which I think is either 3838 or 3839, some of the red in here, which is part of the ribbon that goes around the wreath, and then a little bit of the wreath itself, and a little bit of the kitty here. So as numbers are called, I'm doing it. I believe this is a 14 count aida. Again, it's very easy for me to count, and the piece itself is not so huge. So I have made some mistakes. I had to rip out this red here. I somehow miscounted, but again, it's fairly easy to stitch all of it. So that is all the stitching I have to show you. I just want to show you my two bingo boards for semi-sane stitchers. So here's the one for sane. I have gotten bingos, but they only are giving credit for the first 4 line bingos, and I was not one of the first 4. I am keeping up with the stitching, but I'm just not getting the numbers called. So I have multiple bingos. I have a couple of the numbers that were called either last night or this morning. I feel like, oh, not on this one. But this one I only have 3 numbers left to get a blackout. So hopefully they'll call one of them soon. So there are 2 ways that you can, there are 2 ways left to win now. One is to get a blackout, and the other is to get an S, which is, someone finally says, so how do you find S? And it is literally going across like that. That gives the S. And it means you have to get all 4 corners, and 776 has not been called yet. So that's sort of my, you know, I keep looking, well, can I do a backwards S? Does, you know, does that count? But it's the 4, like no matter which way you draw your S, or even if you drew it sideways, you have to use all 4 corners. And 776, I'm waiting for that one to be called. And similarly on semi-sane, I think I still have a few more. I'm still working on 644. I've X'd it out already because I take a picture to show that's the number I'm working on. 498 was called, I believe, this morning, so I get to work on that. And then, as I mentioned, 791 for Midnight Vigil. I'm very excited that I will have a chance to get those stitches in, and I can make my just fill in that chunk of color I mentioned. In terms of stash acquisition, I really don't have that much to show right now. The only thing that has come in is from Color and Cotton. I got my color of the month. This is a 32 count Lugana, and the color is called Harvest Moon. So that's what it is. Sort of a sandy color, for lack of another way to describe it. So that is all I have to share with you today. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. If you like what you see, if you're new here, please click the subscribe button. And as always, feel free to leave me any comments. I'm not going to talk about what I've been watching and reading over the past couple of weeks. It's the summertime. I've actually been doing a lot of reading, but a lot of light, fluffy beach reads. And with the watching, it's a lot of baseball. So not too much going on to give you reviews of anything like that. So anyhow, I wish everyone well, and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.